So, switching on to something more, topical these days. I have the segment where I like to highlight uh, stuff that's happening in the news, uh, preferably for B2B industrial, but there are some things happening in the news that can have some takeaways, especially the conversation around Twitter is dead, long live X. We've witnessed in the last couple of months 17 years of brand equity squandered. A rebrand that happened overnight to a brand that kind of has some bad connotations around similar branding on the internet.
X.
X. So before I dive in, do you have any general thoughts? And we're talking about the rebrand itself, not the general, case of Elon Musk taking over Twitter. The rebrand itself happened in such a quick and visibly haphazard way that it gives me pause and I want to dig deeper into it.
I mean, I'll just say that no one should be surprised at this point on anything. You should be surprised if you're not surprised, I think, by anything that happens under his watch over there. So, yeah.
So, I have some talking points here. So there's a thread from the newly appointed CEO talking about how X is the future of unlimited interactivity, centered in audio, video, messaging, payments, banking, creating a global marketplace for ideas, goods, services, and opportunities. Powered by AI, X will connect us all in ways we're just beginning to imagine. And all I can think of is Twitter was the town square of the internet. Juxtapose these two ideas, these two messages of Twitter was the town square of the internet and whatever that statement was. It just feels like non-cohesive amalgamation of buzzwords. To add on top of that, the new logo. I'm sure most of you people who have a phone and had Twitter installed have seen the new logo. The bird is dead. After 17 years, the bird is dead. Is replaced by X. And the logo is the Unicode character X, as is. No changes. There was no graphic design involved. In fact, if you were following the developing story, it kind of looked like some random X user, just suggested it, and Elon said, "Brilliant, let's adopt it." People are now manually going into their phones and adding custom shortcuts to roll back this change. They download the old Twitter logo and they rename the shortcut to open this app because nobody wants to have a black icon with a white X on their phone because that suggests some unsavory things. Twitter had two definitions in the Merriam-Webster. How much brand equity more do you want? The
really?
word yes. And
Wow.
I would love to read the definition. Tweet. The first one is to make a chirp, of course, birds. But the second one is to make a posting on the Twitter online messaging service. To post a tweet. I would love a Merriam-Webster dictionary definition for my brand.
I mean, it's definitely the definition of branding.
Yeah.
Like Googling, right?
Yes, exactly. And the Twitter bird itself is featured on countless product packagings all around the world. And if you notice, a lot of these packaging even have the even older Twitter logo. Like, it's such a logistical nightmare to go around and change your packaging and recall existing packaging that's in the market. Doing an overnight rebrand and forcing every single company on earth that decided to not just go all in on Twitter, but put their Twitter handle on their packaging now has to go and change it. Are they gonna? In fact, there's a lot of people that were talking about worries about brand confusion with X videos because there's Twitter videos and all those ramifications. In fact, Twitter was momentarily blocked in Indonesia after the main switch triggered adult and gambling site filters. And it's just the whole piece feels like there was no planning to it. But people who know Elon Musk know that this is not the first time he tried to make X.com a thing, which is his early venture in the online banking that got bought and merged into what we know as PayPal. And when he tried to enforce this branding change to PayPal into X, he got voted out of PayPal. So right now, he's trying to remove the sign for Twitter. In fact, he got a foul with the local authorities because he didn't get a permit to remove the sign so quickly, yet he did it anyway. He quickly erected a big strobing flashing X on the top of the website, not the website, on top of the building. And it created issues with residents because now people have a big shining X in front of their windows, which right now he got forced to remove, so the sign is down. But if you go into the website and dig through the UI, tweet is gone, now it's post. Retweet is gone, now it's called repost. And quote post. So all that brand equity is gone, but if you dig into the UI, you will still find some remnants of the word tweet, but they're working on scrubbing all of that. So before I give my take, as far as branding goes and having that much brand equity, why would one just throw it away? Why would you do such a destructive move of throwing 17 years of brand equity out the window for a new platform that is, which sounds like going to be a Western version of WeChat, the everything app that is known in China, which has social media, messaging, government ID, payments, basically any online service you need, WeChat has. And this seems to be the vision that Elon is building. And I personally do not think there's product market fit for the Western market.
Well, it's really any service you need available online in the same place is what he's going for.
Yes, that is the vision.
And I think at the end of the day, he's obviously been bent on this X idea. And it was kind of like, this is happening. I'm not going to worry about any consequences at all. And, you know, I'm guessing there's people advising against it. Like, but at the end of the day, whatever they're putting in front of them, like brand equity, brand value, whatever they put in front of him was not more valuable than the vision that he has. And he probably, you know, the way he looks at these things, he's going to be able to overcome any consequences in his mind. So he's not caring about, you know, he's going to create his own branding in the Webster Dictionary. Probably how he's viewing the situation.
I
But
feel
think there's-
he's going to get a Guinness World Record for fastest devaluation of a company.
It could be. Even then, like, he probably doesn't care. Like, this is the stepping stone to what he's always envisioned. And yeah, it's going to be, I can't say I'll be watching, but I'm sure there'll be plenty more, interesting um, lessons that can be learned as this progresses forward.
So, speaking of lessons, I had some questions for companies in the B2B space, especially the industrial. I know this is a bit far removed, big SaaS product, B2C sells ads versus the industrial space, who I'm sure the brand equity that they have, even if it's a 20-year-old brand or a 50-year-old brand, the brand equity itself is not that extensive. So I have some questions for the companies that do have established brands. Do you know what your brand is? Because I don't think Elon understood that. Do you have a documentation that defines what that brand is? I don't think Elon saw any documentation or wanted to look at it. Do you know what this brand is worth? And do you have mechanisms to judge if this brand is resonating with the right target audience? And I do feel those are 4 questions that nobody thinks to ask. Because anytime you hear about a website update or a messaging update or a logo update, I don't think these questions are being asked. I think it's more like Elon. We want the future brand. We want the X. We don't care what Twitter is. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about this.
Yeah. Again, it's about being proactive and understanding all this at a true like market value level. I think most companies have no idea, um, especially in industrial spaces, like what brand equity looks like. Again, they haven't had to worry about this, so it's not like crazy that they don't know about it. But it's easy to misstep when you're bringing when you're bringing two companies together, or you know when you get acquired, and there's a question about you know should we take the mother company's brand or should we stick with our brand, and that is a question of, well, do people know this brand? Like, how do they feel about it? Are they going to be upset when we change it? Like, all that's brand equity. And again, you got to be in tune with customers and stuff. Like, and it can't just be, oh, like, we're known for a quality product, so obviously we have brand equity. um, so you can have a quality product and people don't even know your product's in the building. Like, we've seen that plenty of times.
Yep.
So again, it comes back to like the measurable things. And for me, all this is like, there's certain people that find their way into the public spotlight, and people try to like overanalyze what the strategy is and stuff. They don't have a strategy. They're just doing what they want to do because they can, and they enjoy it. So I know a lot of people are going to be, Twitter was still valuable for some people out there, and Twitter's done. Like, it's gone. But there will be others that take its place. It's not going to be X. Like, X is not going to replace the old Twitter in any way. It's like, people need to think of it as a different product. is a different experience.
Speaking of people trying to replace it, Zuckerberg's Threads, that is an Instagram sister app, launched 2-3 weeks ago and shot up to 150 million users. After a couple of weeks, sentiment was it wasn't ready. And you would think that a perfect storm of what Elon's doing with Twitter right now, Threads has the perfect opportunity to swoop in and capture this audience that is looking for a new home. But what Mark Zuckerberg presented was a text version of Instagram with no ads, so people rejoiced. But it shows you that given that Meta's main business is ads, the product is not complete. And when you dig under the surface, you realize all the little quality of life features that the modern social media, well, the modern text-based social media user expects is not there. Also, the people who use Twitter don't want to be on Threads because they're not on Instagram, they're on Twitter. And now the Instagram crowd is on Threads. And these are not the same crowds.
Oh, man. They are not.
They are not the same crowds. So it looks like the text-based social media app, and I know Blue Sky and Mastodon are playing their own little playground. But I do feel, even with all the problems and all the brand equity lost and all the people crying about that the bird is dead, they're still crying about it on X. And this is a scary situation because with everything that's happened and people are still using X, in fact, the user base has doubled. Not the revenue of the company. In fact, the revenue is crashing, but the user base has doubled. What do you think about that?
Doubled since when?
Since the acquisition.
Since Elon acquired Twitter?
Yes.
The user base has doubled?
Yes, and I can look for stats, but that's the fact that more people are using this, whatever this new platform is going to shape up to be, to cry that the old platform is gone while costing Elon billions. Interesting
billions
times.
Of money, like
yes.
Cash, right?
Cash, yes.
But the doubling, I mean, how many users? They were over like, were they like to a billion?
So as far as Twitter users, I think they hovered around 200 million.
Is that like
20,
daily
20.
active?
So that's an interesting distinction. I think it's worth. So it's not daily active users. It's
registered accounts.
Yes.
And it's what?
How many is it? It used to be 280. Now it's 500 and something. But again, advertisers have fled. Revenue has gone away. Nobody wants to advertise there. Twitter Blue has been a very bad experiment, especially with brands and verification. And it all goes back to you had a brand that wasn't making all of the money, but it worked and was generating some revenue. You had a vision. You threw out the old branding. You threw out the old product. You brought in a new product with a new branding, presented it to the market, and now the market is rejecting it as far as revenue goes. But everybody is here for the party to watch you sink billions of cash.
And that's why it's always important to ask what the goal is when doing any campaign. And I guarantee he doesn't care about the revenue. And how powerful is it? I did, man. If it doubled the user base, that had to be better than he expected. Because now, like, he's had this vision forever, and it's like the last piece of the puzzle, like a bunch of users. And now he's got over 500 million. Like, that's a
Yeah,
win for him.
accounts. Yeah.
Like, that's a win for him. Like, because the rest of it will come. I mean, like threads, none of these things have ads when they first get started. And then
Correct.
and then that's where
They
the
have all the ads.
right?
Yeah.
It's the same model over and over. He's
Yes.
just getting to start out with 500 million users.
Correct. But the advertisers are running away.
Right. He's okay if it goes down to zero, because now he's just starting from scratch. He is a startup with 500 million users to start with, and it's a playground. He's going to experiment like crazy, and he's going to get super real relevant data like very quickly. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is, but this is where, like, evil or not, there is genius at play here.
The way I feel about it is the same way I feel about all the marketers on LinkedIn that are using the Barbie movie as a way to extract lessons for, the average Joe marketer. The lesson is, ask your CFO for $100 million, and then you can get to do all of these amazing tactics. But people skip over that. And I feel Elon's plan is have, $40 billion, and then you get to masquerade this new platform as a startup with with 580 million users.
Right?
Yeah. So if we're tying it back to our industrial companies here, we talked about companies that have an established brand, but for companies that do not have an established brand, I think some important questions need to be asked is, do you have a way to learn what your ideal customer profile thinks of your company right now? And do those impressions align with your idea of your own brand? And if they don't, are you ready to relinquish your idea in the favor of your ICP's idea of you? I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about this.
That's a tough mirror to look into, for sure. And ultimately, that's what holds a lot of companies back. Like, they don't want to believe what the customers are saying. They want to believe in their vision and how they think. Sometimes the leaders aren't even aligned with the people underneath them. Like, the people in the day-to-day know that different stuff is happening than what the leader, had envisioned. So, but it is the right question to ask. It's like, it's who gets to decide what the brand is, right?
Yes.
It's not.
And to mirror what Elon is doing, Twitter, in the eyes of everybody, was the town square of the internet. But he believes the vision of this product is the everything app.
Well, I mean, town squares have some banking in them now. Not just people talking to each other.
Yeah.
As street performers, I don't know. A lot remains to be seen. And that's like, even like trying to see like how little strategy there is. Like, I mean, knowing how strong the branding is, like putting a lot of thought into what the X looks like when maybe he knows that people are just going to put the old logo back into their phone, right? And they're just going to hang on to that for dear life. I'm sure there's other things behind it, but that's where it's like, again, the logo is just one piece of the puzzle. Maybe you don't choose an X and then like erect a huge X at the top of your building. But, those are the things like easy to miss or easy not to think about when you're so inwardly focused on what you want as an owner, right? He's not thinking about what anybody else cares about any of this as he finishes off his empire.
So for Elon, rejecting the what people think of his brand netted him doubling his users. What about the industrial manufacturers that do the same? What is their fate?
What is their what?
What is their fate? Like if they decide that their view of the brand is the right one and they reject how their ICP looks at their brand.
I mean, you're certainly risking your customers. Because if you get into that argument, and this is where, specifications and regulation plays a role, in some industrial companies like are in a sweet spot where you're in a government contract, you're in a sweet contract, you don't have to worry about some of this stuff, right? Because it's not about the logo. It's about the product that's in the field that lasts forever, right? But you're opening yourself up, like for somebody to open the door, and it only takes one. It really, like, only takes one bad experience, one competitor that hits the right mark at the right time. Especially in these organizations that are less than 50 million, with maybe one or two big customers. Like, I mean, yeah, there's lots of case studies. Like, even bigger companies that aren't around anymore, that were perennial, blue chip stocks, like, that are just gone, like, because they didn't move the right way. They didn't move anyway.
So I think the takeaway here, if you reject what your ICP thinks of you, somebody else will come and give it to them and win.
It will have an impact at some point. Yes, because somebody else is listening. And sometimes it's the person in your organization that goes and starts a company to serve exactly how the customer is asking. Sometimes it's a customer that knows that there's this opportunity that will start, their own business.
You bring up an interesting point, because a lot of the industrial companies that I've had the pleasure to work with, most of them are started by the lead engineer that left the company and thought he could do the business better, or the lead scientist, or someone who has the expertise of the product, believing that they can sell the product better or manufacture the product better, or they thought that they could provide a better customer experience for the customer base, and decided to go on their own and venture to try to solve the same problem. And those are your most dangerous competitors, because they not only know the product, they not only know the customer base, but they know how you operate, and they know where are your gaps. They can come in and fill them. It's just an interesting tidbit for industrial that I've observed over the years.
Yeah, And your non-compete doesn't go as far as you think it does.